Okay. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. Actually forgot my note at my desk, so I had to run back to get my notes. So here are the 5 announcements that I wrote down. Number 1, you may have noticed that quiz number 3 is up online. You can do that anytime, due tonight, midnight. So we won't be doing that today in class. So no more quizzes in class. Second point, when I was working lab 2, I noticed a lot of you forgot the .join. So when I saw your profile, Twitter profiles, like one after another, there's like a comma in between one. So just remember that. A couple of you, when you're creating your APIs on Makaru, you actually didn't select JSON. So it came out as something else like text or CSV, and that's why it didn't work for the fetch. So just be aware that you're outputting JSON. Number 4, assignment number 1 is officially out. So on Blackboard, under assignments, you will see this one here. So I did slight modifications. So for those of you who already started, the modifications basically are just using one API instead of the 2 that I originally set on GitHub. That's basically the major one. I think instead of displaying 7 emails initially, display 3. And it's just minor things like that. And I'm still marking lab 3. OK. All right. So any questions or comments before we get started today? Cool. All right. So today, what we have lined up is we're going to talk about a little bit of theory, a little bit of the asynchronous nature of JavaScript, a little bit of the history of the AJAX methods that developers have used over time, where we've been, where we're at now. We're going to talk about local storage. So local storage allows you to, it's sort of like cookies in the browser. Just remember different things in the browser that you can recall later. And a couple of different methods. One of them is the filter. So remember what I said, the big 3 are map, filter, reduce. So today we're going to learn about filter. We're also going to learn about a string method called includes, how to add classes to class list, and a little bit of debugger. All right. So you may have noticed that when you were playing with fetch on your own, you may have come across some error message that said, you know, mapping over the certain variable is undefined. And you may any show of hands on that kind of thing? That error? Yeah. OK. So here, let's explain that a little bit more. So here I have 3 statements. OK. I have a console log hi. I have a fetch, which goes across the world perhaps and gets data from another computer, and then a console logs by. And the simple question I have is, what is the order of output in the console? So let me put all of this in the console. Here. Paste. Before I press enter, anyone care to venture what they'll see? The order. And oh, OK. Joel? What do you think? Yeah, highs first, yeah. Then the data, and then by. OK, let's check it out. Ready? Enter. So what printed first was high. You were correct on that. What printed next was by, and then you get the data. So this is where we're going to touch upon what's happening in the background of JavaScript. And this is what trips most people up, is the asynchronous nature of JavaScript. So I'm going to give you an analogy of what's happening under the hood. Keep in mind that whenever you fetch something, it's sort of like you're going into your browser. In the browser address bar, you're typing www.whatever.com. And what's really happening based on this diagram is whenever you do that, you're calling another computer's resources, and that computer resources gives back to you the file, the HTML file or the JSON data. Okay, but that takes time. That's the key. That takes a long time, actually, in terms of computing cycles. That takes forever, almost. So The analogy that I'm going to use is this, and I invented this analogy last semester for the Node class. So hopefully I can still remember how this one goes. Here, I have the same kind of thing. Instead of hi, bye, data, I have, when you go to Tim Hortons, you'll notice that if you order something simple, like a coffee or a tea, the cashier does it themselves, and it's really fast, right? Because they do it themselves. But if you order like a sandwich or a meal, then that gets delegated to the kitchen, because that takes a long time, right? So here, I have these images that I'll use as placeholders. So our first one is there. Second one is here. Third one is here. So these are 3 customers. Coffee.log, who's asking for a double-double, that will be fast. Next will be, I'm ordering a sandwich, which will be long. Next is a fast one again. Okay. So what's happening is that the first customer goes here to the desk, the cashier desk, orders something fast. And the rule is this. The rule is this. Okay, so the rule is this. The worker at the desk can only do fast tasks. Fast tasks, for example, are making coffee or tea, but the slow tasks are making sandwiches. If the worker at the desk receives a slow task, delegate it to the kitchen. Once an order is done, call out the name and give the food. So that's the rules for this area called the desk. The rules for the kitchen is this. When an order is received from the desk, when it's delegated from the desk, take time to make it right. Once it's done, and this is where I depart from Tim Hortons, once it's done, then place the food and the ticket on this done lineup. And for this image, I Googled this image last night. Imagine that this is like a placeholder for the done ticket, and underneath it carries the food as well. Okay. And finally, this turnstile, the rule is this turnstile keeps on looking at the desk, and when there's nothing happening at the desk, then look at the done lineup and send the first thing from the done lineup and put it to the desk. Okay, so here's how it goes. The first one is coffee double-double. Is that a fast task or a slow task? A fast task. So immediately, the sequence of events is, this is the output. So pretend the sequence is like your console, right? That's why you see the high, or in this case, the double-double right away. Here, however, when this customer comes in and asks for something that takes a long time, that will take, or be delegated to the kitchen, freeing the desk to take the next customer right away. So the next customer comes in, right? So as this is cooking, as the panini is cooking, the next customer can be served. That's a fast task. That's why you see buy right away in our previous example. Once this is done, it goes to the done lineup. Let's pretend there's a sequence of other dones, and it keeps on going, keeps on going, because the turnstile is working. And finally, when the turnstile looks at, oh, there's nothing happening at the desk, then go here, and someone at the desk says, Albert, your meal's ready. And that's why you have that. That's what's happening under the hood when you're doing a fetch. Okay? And what I want to emphasize is this is the asynchronous nature of JavaScript, because JavaScript will not pause. It will keep on going. And that's why when you see an error message like map on undefined, that's because it's trying to map on something that doesn't yet exist, because the food has yet to be delivered from the kitchen. Right? The fetch is still taking time. Okay? So keep that in mind. I'm going to give you now the actual names of what's happening here. So this diagram is actually a simplified diagram of what's happening in your browser. This desk, its actual name, it's called the stack, and it's run by, who here, show of hands, who here has heard of V8? V8 in Chrome. So V8 is the name of the engine in Chrome. That is the JavaScript runtime, and that runs only one thing at a time. The kitchen, these are the web APIs, because the browser actually has certain methods under its hood that the V8 doesn't have. For example, set timeout and fetch. That's not found under the desk or the stack or the V8. That's found under the browser's APIs. This done lineup is called the callback queue. This turnstile is called the event loop. And sequence is like your console. Okay, so the question you might be asking is, okay, so fetch takes a long time. What other methods take a long time in JavaScript? Okay, so you got set timeout, you got set interval, you got the fetch or the XML HTTP request to get JSON data, that kind of thing. If you're in the node environment, it's reading and writing files, that kind of thing. Okay, let me show you 5 or 6 minutes of this clip. Show of hands, who's watched this already? Anyone? Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to play the most critical part of this. This is a guy who's trying to figure out what's happening under the hood in JavaScript. What is the event loop more specifically? And he came up with this answer, and it's a beautiful answer. It's got like 500,000 views plus. So if you haven't seen the whole thing, I encourage you to look at the whole thing. Let me see if the volume. Do I have volume? Do I have volume? Oh, thank you.
So the callback appears on the
All right.
and gets run.
So let me rewind it to the 9-minute mark. We're gonna watch 6 minutes of this.
So why is this actually a problem? The problem is because we are running code in browsers. So let's what can I? Here we go. Okay. So this is just this is Chrome. This is the code I just ran. Browsers don't give us, well, they do actually give us synchronous AJAX requests, but I'm actually just baking this out with a big while loop, because while loops are synchronous. So basically while loop for like a second or 5 seconds, I think, before continuing. So if I open up the console here, we can see what happens. So we request free.com, and like, while this is happening, I can't do anything, right? Like even the run button hasn't finished re-rendering the fact that I previously clicked it, because the browser is blocked. It's stuck. It can't do anything until those requests complete. And then all hell breaks loose, right? Because I did some stuff and it figured out that I'd done it. It just couldn't actually like render it, couldn't do anything. And that's because if that call stack has things on it, and here it's got these, we've got these synchronous requests, right? We've blocked the call stack. The browser can't do anything else. It can't render. It can't run any other code. It's stuck. Not ideal, right? If we want to have nice fluid UIs, we can't block the stack. So how do we handle this? Well, the simplest solution we're provided with is asynchronous callbacks, right? So there are almost no blocking functions in the browser. It's equally in Node. They're all made asynchronous, which basically means we run some code, give it a callback, and we run that later, right? We know what, if you've been running JavaScript, you've seen asynchronous callbacks. What does this actually look like? So, simple example to remind people just where we're at. Code like this, console.log hi, right? We run the set timeout, but that queues the console.log for the future somehow. So then we skip straight on to JS.comp.vu, log that, and then 5 seconds later, we log there, right? Make sense? Happy? Basically, like that set timeout is doing something. So asynchronous callbacks with regards to the stack we saw before, how does this work? So let's run the code. Console.log hi, set timeout. Okay, what's going to happen here? We know that console.log there doesn't run immediately. It's going to run in 5 seconds time. We can't push that console.log onto the stack. So somehow it just disappears. We don't have like a way of describing this yet, but we'll come to it. We log JS.comp.vu, clear, and then 5 seconds later, somehow magically console.log there appears on the stack. How does that happen? And this is basically where the event comes in, and concurrency. Right? So I've been kind of partially lying to you and telling you that JavaScript can only do one thing at a time. That is true. JavaScript, the runtime, can only do one thing at a time. It can't make an AJAX request while you're doing other code. It can't do a set timeout while you're doing other code. The reason we can do things concurrently is that the browser is more than just the runtime. So remember this diagram. The JavaScript runtime can do one thing at a time, but the browser gives us these other things, right? It gives us these web APIs. These are effectively threads that you can't access like threads. You can just like make calls to. And those pieces of the browser are where this concurrency kicks in. If you're a backend person, this diagram looks basically identical for Node, except instead of web APIs, we have C++ APIs, right? And the threading and all that stuff is hidden from you by being run in like C++. Okay, so now that we have this picture, let's see how this code runs in this kind of more full picture of what a browser looks like. So, same as before. Run the code, console log hi to console. Simple. Now we can see what happens when we call set timeout. So when we call set timeout, we pass this callback function and a delay to the set timeout call. Now set timeout is an API provided to us by the browser. Remember I said it doesn't live like in the V8 source. It's like extra stuff we get in the environment we're running the JavaScript runtime in. So effectively we kick off the timer, right? And like the browser kicks off the timer for you. And now it's gonna handle the countdown for you, right? So that means that our set timeout call itself is now complete, so we can call off the stack. JSComp.vu, clear. So now we've got this timer in the web API, which 5 seconds later is going to complete. Now the web API can't just like start modifying your code, right? It can't just like chuck stuff onto the stack when it's ready, because if it did, it would like just appear randomly in the middle of your code. So this is where the task queue or the callback queue kicks in. So basically, any of the web APIs, when they're done, they push your callback onto the task queue. And finally, we get to the event loop. The title of the talk is what the heck is the event loop. The event loop is like the simplest little piece in this whole equation, and it has one very simple job. The event loop's job is to look at the stack and look at the task queue. If the stack is empty, it takes the first thing on the queue and pushes it onto the stack, which effectively runs it, right? So here we can see that now the stack is clear. There's a callback in the task queue, so the event loop runs. It says, oh, I get to do something here. Pushes the callback back onto the stack. Now remember, the stack is like JavaScript land, right? This is back inside V8. So the callback appears on the stack and gets run. Also look there, and we're done. That makes sense.
So that hopefully, does that kind of make sense now with fetch and why sometimes you're getting that error? Any questions on the event loop and all that? I thought that was kind of neat and insightful. So let's actually, to reinforce what we just saw, I'm going to attempt to run similar code again, but I'm going to use an extension in VS Code called Debugger for Chrome, so that we can kind of see in live what's happening. So let me open up the VS Code fetch. I wrote this this web page, basic web page. So it's just very simple. It has one script. Same thing, you know, console log hi bye, and then inside there's a fetch. Okay, so I put a debugger statement here to stop the program immediately, so it doesn't run right away, and then we could physically click a button to step through that. So let me see if I can make this happen. Let me start a server, so it runs it. Okay, and then if I go to my debug and launch it, I think it should. So it's paused in Visual Studio Code. Okay, so let me. Am I allowed to? All right. So I'm going to step into line by line this code. So again, this code looks like what you saw before, something very fast, something very long, and something very fast. So let's see here. If I step into the next function, Or maybe it's this one, step over the next function. I forget which one I do. And you're keeping your eye basically on this area here. Oh yeah, see, thank you. Step over. Okay. Oh, there we go. Yes, I pressed it a couple times. So it did the double. Okay, it consoled that. Now it's on to the fetch. So right now, whenever you're doing a fetch and you're fetching some JSON, the reason why we have this first .then, where we then have to say .json, is because this resource here doesn't always have to be a JSON. It could be anything. It could be like some media, like music even. So what's happening here in this line is that you're telling the browser what the data that you're about to receive, treat it like a JSON and parse it. So that's why we have response.json there. And then once that completes, now it's in a usable format called data, which you can then assign it to something. Okay. So as you can see here, it's the res response is going. It's going to go, or it looks like it's already received it. That API. So let's click on the next one, and by clicking on the next one, it's now on the next line, right? And now the data is fully parsed because of the .json method previously, and so now you can do something with that. Next, and there's the data. Okay, because previously we didn't see the data back in this first then. And then keep on going. Okay, so hopefully that kind of reinforces what you just learned there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to go quickly over the history of the AJAX methods that JavaScript developers were forced to use in the past, but not anymore. So let me just quickly go through this slide. Any questions or comments so far? Okay. So what we're going to do, let's go to this. All right. Let me just copy this PHP code for a second and put it here. So if you remember your comp 1006 days, PHP, probably remember something like this, where you were connecting to a MySQL database, remember that? And you use some command like fetch all to fetch all your queries. Remember that from PHP? And then you'd assign all your results in some variable. Now, I don't know if you learned this back in comp 1006, but you can actually say JSON encode, which then takes the data that you just received from your MySQL database and put it there. Oh, hold on. I should say array here. Keep in mind the array is sort of like this kind of data structure, which should look like JSON to you. And so it takes that array and turns it into JSON. So that's what the JSON encode command does in PHP. It takes the array, turns it into JSON, and then you can echo that JSON data out as one big string. So the point I want to make here is the history of AJAX was people used to use XML, but then they gravitated toward JSON, realizing that JSON is a much nicer format to work with, especially in JavaScript, because it's already kind of formatted as a JavaScript object. Second point, realize that people are using JSON because it's very cross-platform. So just like here, PHP, it can output in JSON format, therefore making your applications cross-platform, right? You can communicate with other servers that don't even talk the same language. Now, in the very beginning, you used to have something called XML HTTP request. Let me show you how that worked. to the console here. Magnify. Let me just paste whatever I just copied and comment. So in the past, in order to fetch JSON, you'd have to do something like this. You'd have to use the XML HTTP request in this kind of convoluted way. You'd say new XML HTTP request, assign it to a variable like XHR. Then you'd have to add an event listener called and listen for not click or not submit, but something called ready state change. And then whatever's in this function, whatever's written in this function, actually gets run multiple times, because what's happening under the hood is the ready state actually goes through different stages, from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And so what's happening is that as the transaction and JSON request is happening, once it reaches stage 4 and once the status is 200, which means OK, then we're ready to parse the JSON. And so you would have something like this. I'm going to put in, instead of API URL, I'm going to demonstrate this by just putting our good old api.github.com users, whatever thing is. So if I click on enter, you should see the same result as the fetch there. So that's what developers, JavaScript developers used to do in the past, use XML HTTP request. But when you look at it, it's kind of odd, right? It's kind of weird. Like, what's with this ready state for? And it's kind of convoluted. Fast forward to 2000 and what is it? 2009. 2009, jQuery came around, and it invented 3 methods that you can use for JSON requests. So the first one was this $.ajax. The second one was $.getJSON. Third one was the $.get. I'm just going to mention that in passing in case you see it. It does the same thing as the XML HTTP request. It all does the same thing. Okay. Again, we don't want to use jQuery in this class, so I'm just passing that by. Come around 2015, we then have this, which you've already have experience with, the fetch command. Okay. So the big deal with fetch is that under the hood, it uses a data structure called promises, which means that you're using the .then way instead of the callback way kind of thing. And it kind of eases the callback hell problem that we had before. And you already know how to use fetch, so I'm going to skip on that. As of last year, this became available, the async await. Now, the async await is beautiful because when you read it, it reads like synchronous code, not asynchronous code. You're not dealing with callbacks anymore. It reads like PHP, right? It's like, fetch that, and you don't have the callback. You don't have the .then. You don't have the function inside the parameter. It does what it looks like it ought to do, naturally speaking. And this is why people are using async await instead of the other stuff that we've seen, or in combination. Right, so here we're fetching, but we're also awaiting. And we'll get more into this next after the midterm. But if you wish to use this for the assignment, you can. But we're just going to focus on fetch for this half. OK, so that's just the brief history of Ajax. Any questions or comments on that? OK, so the next step, the next topic we're going to talk about is local storage. So in your assignment, I'm going to ask you to try to use local storage, where it'll remember your emails. And if you delete an email or add an email, it'll remember that. So if you refresh your browser, it'll still remember that. And it won't go back to the beginning again. So these are the 4 different methods that you can use with local storage. So let's try the first example here, except I'm going to modify this a little bit. Instead of just a simple string, I'm going to use an array of objects. Okay, so let me go to the console. And so let me just set an array of objects. I'll just say const heroes equals some array. And inside that array is some objects. And inside each one will have a name. We'll call it veteran. Maybe another field called Twitter, whatever. Society. Second object will have a name, call it green. We'll say Logan. And finally, Xavier. And Twitter will be, I don't know. Okay. Enter, just double check. So you have your objects. Imagine this is your emails for your assignment, right? So let's try this first one, local storage.set item. This is what it does. So to use local storage, just say local storage, capital S for storage. We're going to set item. And in here, the first string, it could be any name you want, okay? So that's why I said my cat. I'll say my heroes, whatever. That will be the key for what I'm going to show you next. And in here, we're going to say heroes. We're going to try this for now. We'll see how far we get, and then we'll modify this. So let's press enter. Enter. So what just happened is local storage, sort of like cookies, it actually remembers your array. And to test that, using Chrome, if you click on the application tab, and then click on this, under storage, click local storage, and then click the one under it. Here you see what the variable you just defined. And then to the right is the data. However, notice it says object. That's incorrect. It should be the data. The reason why you're not seeing it is because this should actually contain just strings, not objects. So to change that up, let's go back here. And actually, we can try clearing the, there's another method here called, clear. So I'm going to try that to empty it out. I'm going to say local storage.clear. It's gone. Let's test if it's gone. Application. Yep, it's gone. Let's try it again. This time, we're going to do it right. So instead of set item heroes, we're going to say this. We're going to say json.stringify heroes. Here. Now we test going to the application tab. And there, that's correct. That looks good. Okay, so just remember, if you're using local storage, the big idea is you have to use strings by using json.stringify. Okay, so imagine this is your assignment. Imagine this is these are your emails, and the part where it's in the assignment where it's asking you to use local storage, you're using you're trying to transform your emails into string using json.stringify, and then using local storage.setItem those emails. Okay, that's basically how you set. The second one I want to point out is this one, local storage.getItem mycat. So this is in reverse. So let's check this out. So I think I still have it under application. I do. My heroes, and there's the array, or the not the array, the string. So local storage.getItem, and then in here you're passing in the name of whatever you wrote before. So it was, I think it was my heroes, right? Is that right? Let's see. But again, the big idea is, notice it's all red in Chrome, it's all red because it's a string, right? Notice these double quotes, which means if I had assigned this to a variable like const heroes equals, I can't do that. Okay, that's fine. Let's call it heroes 2. I can't do this. I can't say heroes2 dot or 0 dot name or whatever. Like I can't do that because it's just one string. It's not an object. So what's the solution to that? The solution to it is, instead of using json.stringify, you're using something else called json.parse. Let's say this, const heroes 3 equals local storage my heroes, but I'm going to json.parse that whole thing. that whole string. So again, this returns a big string. Then that's passed in as the parameter under JSON.parse, so that it takes that big string and actually transform it back into the object. Oh yeah. Just in case. There. So now if I say heroes 4, oh crap, what did I do wrong? Thank you. That's heroes 5. Heroes 5. There. There's my nice data back in object, where then I can say, you know, heroes 5 with a index of 0. I can't even see that. Dot name or something. Now I can access each of the values. Okay. And the remove one, again, you can just say storage dot remove item my heroes. Now before I click on enter, let me just double check under application. I should have it, and I do. So if I click on enter, it should be gone. Click on application to test, it's gone. So keep that in mind when you're doing your assignment. So how you would use this is you would use this command to pass in your emails array. So it remembers it for next time. So if I click on refresh, it'll use that instead of refreshing from the state. So the question is, what's the logic there to know that it's going to get it from your local storage and not from starting from scratch? What's the logic there? What do you think? How would you test? Yeah, Jaden. Say that again. Yeah. So exactly. So in your assignment, you could do a test like if local storage dot get item, you know, my emails, and if it exists, it'll return true. If it doesn't exist, it'll return false. And then you could, you know, work out the logic there. Question, Matt. For example, let's say you're doing a to-do list on the web for restaurants. Okay, so you could actually enter, the user can enter in an input field, you know, the food that they want to order in the restaurant. But shucks, you know, they make a mistake. They maybe click on the reset button on the form, or not the reset, but maybe they refresh the browser accidentally. You don't want them to start all over again, right? Kind of thing. So it's just a tool to use. You know, use it at your own discretion. The other tool that is kind of similar but holds more data, it's called indexed DB, MDN indexed DB. IndexedDB. Think of this as like a mini MySQL. I've never actually used it, but it's another web storage that you can use if you need to. Yeah. Cool. Any questions on local storage? Those are very, very fast. Yeah. That? Yeah, sure. So the parameters is, in my slide example here, I passed the string, but you could pass in an array of objects if you wanted to. Let's look at the MDN. What am I looking at again? Local storage. So here, let's see here. Where's the syntax? See, and adds a data item to it. Maybe I have to click on this one to get more information. Okay. So key value, what can that be? Oh, a DOM string containing the value you want. Okay. DOM string. So it's a string, and that's why we use the JSON.stringify to transform our array into a string, because it just uses strings. Yeah, exactly. So when you say set item, whatever variable is in here, you're declaring that and creating that variable in the applications tab, right? So if it's my cat, back into applications, you'll see here under the key, my cat. And then in here would be that second, whatever you pass in the second parameter. Right. So in my slide example, I had my cat and a simple string whiskers, which means if I ran this, it would be my cat over here and then a simple string of whiskers over here. That's it. And then to get that value, you just do the reverse of get item and then JSON parse if you need JSON parsed. Cool. Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's a good tool to know. Yeah. All right. Let me see. Filter. Did we take a break? That's the question. Filter. Yes, I think we should. In exercise 4. Okay. Do you feel like taking a break? It's 3 minutes before the 10 minutes. Yeah. You want to take a break? Sorry, I missed what you said, Matt. You can. Oh, you're okay. All right, let's take a break. And then next, we're going to talk about the second big array method called filter. Okay? So 10 minutes. You have a question? What's your name? Karan. Oh yeah, I know you.
You gave me extension.
Yes.
And I complete my lab 2 and 3. And what about the quizzes?
You can't do the quizzes?
Yeah.
Why not?
Because these quizzes are not online.
It's not showing online?
Yeah.
Oh, I have to change that, don't I? Let me see. Okay, let me email myself to remind me, and then I'll deal with that later. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for reminding. Hold on, give me a second here. I'm gonna email myself. New message, Albert. Notes. Make Karen do quizzes. Okay, who's next? Hey, Matt. Who's next? What's that again?
I do have a GitHub.
Okay.
That is not a private directory.
Okay. Now, when you did
And I had submitted the laboratory at Blackboard. It's showing me late. But
did you email me anything? Did you email me whatever?
Yeah.
What's your name again?
Prabjot Bangu.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, as long as you email me, then I'll remember, because then I'll forget. Question: when you created your GitHub, did you go through here or did you go through the main GitHub site? Don't do that. Do it through here.
Account.
Don't do it. Do it again. Except go through GitHub Education. This will give you private GitHubs.
Okay.
This is free for students.
Okay. It would be counted as an assignment. It will not.
Yeah. If it's not private, I won't count it against you this time. So are you saying if your GitHub is not private? Yeah. If your GitHub is not private, don't worry about it. Okay. Because I know people are still setting up GitHub and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I had sent you the GitHub down on the email also that I forgot.
Okay.
To upload that link
Yeah.
on the Blackboard.
Yeah.
You have simply collaborated. You send the link of that
Yeah.
on the invitation.
Yeah.
I had done everything before the deadline.
Right.
But after day, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that they
Okay.
you need to upload that. So my marks would not be deducted.
Just make sure you email me whatever you
Yeah,
just said,
I'll
so
mail
I'll
you.
remember. Because
I'll
whatever you
mail
say to me now, it's like I'll
Okay.
forget it. So just email me whatever you just. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Three. So there was
What's your name?
Ricky.
Yes.
So there was a difficult in that. So you
For lab which?
Three.
Okay, I didn't mark that. I didn't finish marking it. Yeah.
There was a problem that we have to display one email. but by we are displaying two. It is displaying two.
Okay.
So one it is not coming up. The other two, when we add the quantity two, which add the two emails. So you have just said that we have to add the one email, so it's not coming at all. So
Okay.
we have just get the two emails at a time.
2 emails at a time. Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay.
By clicking on the compose and it's displaying two emails extra.
I see. Okay. All right. I'll take a look at it.
Somewhat
Uh,
different from your.
Yeah. So I'll judge it when I come to it. I'll come to that bridge when I cross it.
Also, we know about the time mode. I don't know how to do that.
Well, I did demonstrate it very briefly last class. Yeah, no, but it's pretty simple. And if you read the documentation, you should
So
get a
actually, we have
sense.
followed all the instructions
Yes.
of the video
Yes.
and going by the sides, and there was no time. So
It's one of those things that I quickly demonstrated last class, and if you want me to demonstrate it during break, I can. But it's one of those things that you can also kind of look it up yourself and kind of learn.
there is a time mode, but it is not coming up.
Okay.
Not applying on it.
Okay. I'll take a look at it and cross that bridge when I come to it.
Thank you.
Hey, Joe. I mean, Josh.
How you doing?
Pretty good. You know what? Last night I slept from 8 p.m. Woke up at 1 a.m. Tried to prep. Slept at 4 a.m.
Jeez, man.
And it's just for this class.
Oh man, that's horrible. I don't know. Like, I remember you said you were doing that last time. too.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
wake up like in the middle of the night.
Yes.
I'm like, dude, no way, man. Like, I'd be winging it if that was the case. Like, yeah, I need my sleep.
Because I'm trying to make last year's stuff a bit better with slides and just better geared toward the assignment. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of rearranging and ideas pop into my mind. I'll say, oh, this would be cool if we did this. Oh, it would be cool if we did this. So then I try it and then
Yeah, I was so when I first saw your assignment for this class, I was like coming up with this crazy solution. So I'm like,
I saw it. I saw your crazy stuff.
well, okay, like
I said,
basically,
I don't even want to read it.
for the one part that I was like, okay, this is funky, is the part where it's like, get these emails, and until you leave the page and come back, the emails will be the same, right? And I'm like sitting here, I'm like, well, local storage can only store strings. I'm like, what can I do, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, maybe I'll create like 3 JSON files on my server, and then I'll just like dynamically.
Is that what you did?
I was gonna do that.
Okay.
That's what I was like, every time it'll initialize, it'll check the local storage for a user ID. If they have one, it'll go grab it from the JSON file, and if it doesn't have room, it'll overwrite the oldest file. I'm like, that's gonna be crazy. But I'm like,
no, this is client side course.
I was like, there's no way.
No, there's no way I would ask you that.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no way that you require us to do that. So then I was like, oh, it makes sense. You're just trying to find the JSON. Like, probably wouldn't recommend doing that for like a big application, but for this it's fine. Yeah. But I think I'm gonna try using the index DB because I've never even heard of that. So
I've just heard of it, but I've never tried it. I have no experience using that.
I think I'll try that for this assignment just to see because I've never even heard of it before. So
That's cool.
see how that works because it sounds cool.
Yeah.
Like, and I've already used local storage a lot, so I already know how to do that.
Yeah.
So. But I basically for that lab I kind of got carried away.
Yeah.
Like I started doing it in the morning, and I'm like, I like woke up. I was fasting that day, so I didn't eat or anything. So I just sat down on my computer. I'm like, I'm gonna start the lab or whatever. And I was kind of inspired by my stuff at work because that's how they do all of our widgets. They basically we have a TPC API.
Okay.
It's mostly used internally, so you can't just like come in .tpc. But what we do is we use like tpc.create, and then we'll put the type of widget we want to create, and then like the UI where it sits on the UI, like where it plugs into on the DOM. That's what I did for this one. I just created an email manager, put where it plugs into on the DOM, and just let it do the rest, right? Which is great because it's like all modularized, right? So if I want to change anything, it's super easy, right?
That's so good.
But it was fun to do. Like,
Yeah, no, that's I can tell based on what I saw. I was like, okay, this guy's having fun.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing. This guy's having fun.
Yeah, no, the best part is when you see like the main JS, it's just like create email manager dot initialize. That's
Yeah, he had like several scripts. Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, I tried using enumerations too.
Yeah, I saw your object freeze.
Yeah, pretty cool. Never used enums in Java.
So what was the purpose of freezing that read object freeze? Deleted whatever. What was the, how do you use that?
Basically, just like enumerations in other languages. So if you want, so before, like I would have functions where you would pass in a string, say like create or string read, right? And then it's not as clean to be like, if the string equals create, then do this, and the string equals create. If you use an enumeration, some like more memory efficient way of saying like dot create, dot read, dot add, whatever enumeration you need to do, right? So that's just from like C#. I wanted to try and see if we could bring that into JavaScript.
That's great. No,
It seems like it works. So
that's good.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was enjoying that because like now, honestly, to transition that into this assignment is going to take no time. Like it's going to like be like a couple, like 2 or 3 extra functions. That's all. So I like this class because I'm like learning. Like you keep mentioning things that I've just never heard of. So I'll go.
Yeah. That's my hope. Actually. Like the reason I mentioned this is so that people will look it up themselves and keep that in mind for the future. That's why I say it's good. It's good. It's awesome. So.
Okay. Go ahead. I'll talk to you after. Sorry.
Yeah.
Got the solution, and then I want to confirm, can I make like submit to again?
You can. I mean, if you have it on the web, then submit back. Like I would prefer to have it on the web rather than downloading your GitHub and running it locally. It's much faster for my part that way. So you could do that if you successfully publish it somewhere. Email me that domain name or that website, and that's fine.
Because I can't submit now.
Email me. Direct. What's your name? What's that? Okay.
So, out of curiosity, how is the class doing with labs now? Class stuff, like, doing it now? Still 50%. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering maybe if it might be a good idea to like have like a level 1, 2, or 3 kind of thing like Scott does.
What is it? What does Scott do for
So basically what he does is he'll have, each lab he has will be split into 4 levels. So level 1 will be like the basic, and basically what it is he'll say you have to do to level 3. And then if you want to challenge yourself, go further, you can level 4 and get a bonus mark or something.
So people do level 1 only.
Yeah, you can't just do 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, I see.
And then level 4 is always a bonus, right? Like I'm just thinking maybe that might be a good idea.
Yeah,
for the class is struggling or something. Because like I've been enjoying it personally. But I haven't even me like having a bit of challenge at times. Like not really. Like it's just been JavaScript because JavaScript is weird, right? Like I've just had a little bit of quirky JavaScript moments, but everything else has been fine, like completely fine. And being that we had the level 1 JavaScript class, this should be fine. But that's all I've had too, right? But
that's a good idea. I'll try that for the next time, for the next class. I'll see if I can remember that. Actually, you email me about it. Just email me level 1, level 2, level 3. Yeah, for sure. Cool.
No doubt.
Okay, let's get back.
So turn class by class. Okay.
Okay, so make everyone quiet. Okay. All right, let us start at the top of the hour. A couple of people have mentioned they're getting, they have no private GitHubs. They have no feature to make their GitHub repository private. And my answer to that is go through here, education.github.com. If you go through here, you can get private repositories in your GitHub, as well as a bunch of other free stuff that you can use for your development. All right, so go through education.github.com to get private GitHub. All right, so we are going to talk about filter. Probably the fastest way that you can get to where I want you to go is to open my slides and get to this page, and then right-click the code pen and get to here. Okay. So that you can, what's going to happen right now is I'm going to give you a few minutes to try these out yourselves, and then we take it up like after a few minutes. So you have some experience. Okay. So again, open my slides. It should be, I should have put my slides in the announcements. So under announcements, under pre-class to do, you should see my slides link right here. So go there now if you're not there already, and then go to this slide and open this code pen so that you are now here. And let's rock and roll. Yeah, so under Blackboard, under announcements, you'll see my pre-class to do, and then you'll have my slides there, right there. So go there, and then get to this slide here, and then get to my code pen. Okay. So filter, that's the next big array method that we are going to tackle. So you already learned the map. The filter is the second big one. And it's kind of like, I kind of like think of it as just like MySQL queries. You can just filter something that maybe is a big array and filter it down to one or some elements of that. So here in the example of MDN, they have an array called words, okay? And then instead of words.map, right? Again, .map can only work on an array. Same with .filter, it can only work on an array. So this is an array. And then you just pass in the test. Okay, so what's happening here is this is going to evaluate either to true or false. If it is true, then it will be part of the new array that filter gives you. If it is false, it will not be part of that array that filter gives you. So notice here in their example, we start off with an array of 6 elements. We ask, okay, go through each word, and if the length of that word is greater than 6 characters, then it'll be part of the new array. So it starts off with spray. Spray goes into word. Is spray dot length equal greater than 6? No, so it's not part of the final array, and that kind of thing. Okay. That's the big idea. So let us try this with this one, and this is where you come in. So I want you to use filter to operate on this array of inventors and filter that list of inventors to output those who were born in the 1500s. Question, Matt? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, feel free to talk to your neighbors. I want this to be a group, collaboration kind of thing. Now, let me point out. The big idea, or just remember this syntax, okay? So this answers your question, Matt. You cannot just put the test inside filter. Notice there's an arrow function there. Okay, so notice there's this, and then the arrow, and then your test. Okay, so keep that in mind. So here's your syntax. So I kind of imagine this half of the class where, people will try it on their own, they'll talk to their neighbor, say, what'd you get for this? How come it's not working? Oh, you forgot to this. And then, it's collaborative learning. If you got it, I want you to raise your hand. Okay. Cool. Give a couple more minutes and then we'll take it up. All right, let's take it up. All right, so who got this one? Vivian. Vivian, what'd you put? Yeah. Yes. That is correct. So notice here in my console, the only objects that it returned are Galileo and Johannes Kepler, as they were born in the year of 1500 something. Perfect. Which one? What are you talking about?
So the error function, is that the shorthand notation? Like,
oh, I see what you're saying. Like if inventor.year is greater than 14999, and then the next line down below that, it would be another if inventor.year less than 1600. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes. The answer is yes. It's shorthand.
So that's like ternary operator.
It's kind of, well, it's kind of that mentality. Yes. Yeah. Because what's happening here is because of the double and, both of these have to be true in order for the test to work, right? Did you learn truth tables way back when? Truth tables where T and T equals T, T and F equals F, F and T equals F, F and F equals F?
Yeah.
So same thing here. So if this is true, T and T, that means the whole thing's a T, which means that the test passes.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, yeah. Right? Okay, cool. So the next one is number 2. Filter the list of inventors for those who died before the year 1800. Okay, so I'll give you a couple minutes for that, and we'll take it up. All right, we'll take it up. Anyone from this table want to say anything? Yeah. Hey, what'd you put? Sorry, what's your name again? Say it again. Well, okay, what'd you get? Yeah. Yeah. Let's console log that. Result 1. And yeah, looks like you got it. Past 50. Yeah, they're all before 1800. Very good. All right. Next thing I want to mention is a string method. So this one's called include. So if I go to NDN includes, this operates. Oh, this is the array one. Actually, it could be both. There's actually an array one and a string one. So here, you could say something like this. So here's an array called pets. It has cat, dog, and bat in the array. You could say pets.includes and test for, hey, array, do you have cat? And it will output true or false. Okay. Also, take note, there's also an includes on the string. So, for example, here's a sentence. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. And we are saying, does the sentence include the word fox, right? The word is fox here. And if so, then it'll output whatever. So that's two ways you can use includes for the string and the array. So here's your challenge. I want you to filter the list of inventors for first names that have the letters NE. So I'll give you a couple minutes for that. Show of hands, anyone got it? Not yet? Okay. This one's a little bit more challenging, I think, actually. Anyone get it? Yeah, Joel, what'd you get? Now, the problem is, does that work? Oh, right. Yes, it worked. I was looking at something else. Okay. What was I looking at? Oh, yeah. I better comment these out. The ones that. All right, cool. Now, here's the bigger challenge. So now you've learned map. Now you've learned filter. I want you to combine the two. So here's your challenge. Remember this back in your quiz? So I want you to go back to this link right here, which I displayed in the code pen. Go back to this page here. And your challenge is this. Create an array of boulevards in Paris that contain the letters DE anywhere in the name, the street name. So as a reminder, here's the array that I'm looking for, okay? And notice the array only contains names where the street names have the DE somewhere in the street name. Could be here, okay? Hint, you have to use, well, you don't have to, but try to use both, map combined with filter. So you could have a dot map, and then after that, a dot filter. Yeah.
The E is not included in the first.
Are you looking at this one or this one?
Oh, the bottom.
Yeah, the bottom one. Yeah. So you got any there, you got any here. Yeah. I got fooled by the same thing. I was looking at another console from a previous. So basically, you're in this page. You're using the console to try to grab all the street names you most likely know how to do based on your quiz. You're grabbing the text content, and then you can pass it through a dot filter right after that. Now it's true you don't have to use a dot map and a dot filter. You could probably just get away with just dot filter, but I just want you to be aware that you can combine these. Okay. Let's take, anyone get this? Show of hands? No, not yet. Let me start you off. So we'll do a const. What am I doing? A const. Blah, blah, blah. Let's call it category, whatever the category is. Let's say document dot query selector all, and based on the quiz, I tested for this, although there should have been 2 answers for that, followed by an A, and this has to be in a spread operator. So blah 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 dot dot dot, and then close that off. So my category, whatever category you named it, should now have all 33 anchor links. Right? So that's your first starting point. Then your next starting point would be like something like this. Const, and I'll name this the equals category dot. And then you have a map, and then you have a filter. Try to fill that out in the next minute. See if you get that. All right, anyone get it? Even with that? Okay, so here's how it goes. So we're mapping over each of these anchor tags, right? So that's why we use dot map. So I'm going to say A, which represents the anchor tag, and I'm going to get the actual text content from that. So I'm returning this a.text content, right? So if I just do that right now and say console log it, actually, let me just make this into a let, just so I can reassign it later on. So let the equals category.map in this. So if I say enter and then console log the, I get all 33 street names. However, I don't want all 33. I want only the street names that have the DE in it. So how do I do that? Let's do that again. So this time I'll say DE equals all of that, and then add a dot filter. And then for each singular street name, the test is, does that street name includes DE? There. Enter. Oops. Enter. And there it is. So you should have 12 street names that have DE. Okay, so this line right here is the final answer. There. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So again, the map, the whole purpose of the map in this case was it's giving you an array of all the streets because it's using the text content to grab all the strings, right, for all those anchor tags. So now, in your mind, you should just picture, okay, you have an array of 33 strings. So now, if you filter on that array and say, okay, does this particular string include DE? If that's true, then that will be part of the new array. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Let us move on. Okay, we're going to look up a new method called class list. I don't know if you've learned this in Scott's class or other places. So this is something where you can actually add a class or remove a class or toggle a class inside the DOM. So, for example, here are your basic methods. You can say classlist.add or classlist.remove, classlist.toggle. So the example they give here is, let's see, a good example. Okay. What do they do here? Okay, so they created an element called a div element. So they're starting off with this. And then they say div.classlist.add, and and inside the string, they put some class name. And then all of a sudden, that div now has that class name. Okay. So by the way, before we move on, so the reason we're using filter, and I taught you that today, is perhaps for the assignment, you don't have to do this, but you could. Perhaps for the assignment, when I ask you to click on the trash, and then in the trash, you see all the emails that you've trashed or deleted before, what you could do is you could filter your array of emails and search for, deleted equals true, where you have some kind of object key value pair where deleted is true. So filter for that, and then you could display that. That's possibly one way you could do it. Okay, so back to class list. The reason we're doing class list is because in the assignment, I ask you, if you click on an email, make it look selected. So how do you make it look selected? Well, it happens to be that the pure CSS template that I've given you, there's a class there that you can easily find, which makes it look selected. And then you just add that class upon click. Okay, so here's the challenge. Output an H1 tag of each inventor's names on the web page, but highlight it if the full name has NE in it. Okay, so we'll take care of this highlight business later. Let me just let you know that I've already put this main tag in the HTML here, so you can hook onto that. And then in the CSS, I've given you one class called highlight, which gives you a yellow color. Okay, so the output is I want to see all the first names of each inventor here on the web page in the form of H1 tags, but highlight only those full names if that full name contains any in it. Let's give you a few minutes for that. And what you should notice is that we're getting closer and closer to what the assignment requirements are. So I'll start you off. You want to hook onto the main. So const main equals document query selector main, right? Eventually you're gonna say main.innerHTML equals markup. So your next line would be something like perhaps this const markup equals inventors.map, and then you fill in the rest. Don't forget the join at the end of that. Make it one long string. And then the next line after that would be main.innerHTML equals markup that you just did. So that's the first half. The highlight comes next, which I'll do later. The full name this time. Yeah. Okay. Anyone get what goes inside the map? Anyone get that one? Joel, yeah. So so inside the map, I'm looking for this one: inventor, arrow, and then what? Yeah, backtick, right? Yep. Yeah. Yep. And there he is. Perfect. So now that we outputted all our emails, if you will, referring to the assignment one, I want you to highlight the only ones that using the class list. You could actually, there's a couple of ways you could do this. We'll do it with the class list way. So what did you finish the highlight one after this one or no? Joel? You did? Okay, what did you do for how'd you do this one? Yep. Yep, and then you put it, or did you do the spread operator on that one? Oh yeah. Okay. Do that. All right. Any dot map. Yep. Yep. If. Yep. Perfect. So you'll notice that Johannes Kepler is highlighted in yellow, as well as Catherine Blodgett, as well as Lisa Maitner, because all of those full names have the NE in it, either in the first name or the last name. Perfect. So this is one way to do that. I'm going to show you another way without even using class list. And so in your assignment, you can go either way, depending on how you code this. By the way, the assignment, I give you a lot of freedom in how you want to architect that. So there's a lot of ways you could do that. For example, if you click on the inbox in the assignment and then click on the trash, how you code that could be up to you. Maybe you want to do it where inbox is one array called inbox, and then you just push and pop off that one. And the trash could be another array, perhaps, and you push on pop off of that one and just swap back and forth like our lab 2, where you had the heroes and the more heroes. Or you could do it another way. You could say you have all your objects, and then you just simply add a new key value on each object. For example, deleted equals true. And then you can filter on that one for each, depending on what view you want. So, all right. So here is the same thing again without using class list. Yeah, question, yeah. It's not working out? Oh, okay. Could be a. Let's see. Okay, so here's another way to approach it. So challenge 3C is to do the same thing again without using class list. So what we could do, let me just see what I did here. Oh yeah. So we could do this, something like this. So let me comment out all of this for now. Okay, so it starts off the same, const main equals document.query selector main. So now I've got the main tag in the HTML. Then I could do something like this, const markup equals. So it starts off the same again, map. And I could do some convoluted thing like this. I could say inventor. And instead of just putting the H1, 8 and tag H1, if I already know, I already have access to the inventor, I could actually put the class in here right now or not, depending on the status of the inventor. So I could say something like this. I could say class equals, right? And so what I'm going to say is include the highlight class if the inventor's name includes the NE. And if it doesn't, then don't add any class. So I could say something convoluted like this. I could say, oops, I need, yeah, I could say something like this. I could say, if the inventor's first name includes an E, let me put this in multiple lines so it's just easier to read. Or, so if the first name includes any, or the last name, I have to take into account the last name as well. So I'm going to use a ternary operator. So if this whole thing is true, then output the string highlight, which then will be part of that class attribute, right? So I'm just going to put this whole thing in brackets just so, actually, do I do that? Yes, I do. So I'm going to put this whole thing in brackets just to keep this together. Okay, so if this is true, then do the following. Question mark. Let me question mark. Output the string highlight. Else output an empty string. And then inside the actual H1 tag, I'll have it just as before. No change here from the last one. And then the join. And then finally, now that I have my markup, I can just do this before mean.innerHTML equals markup. There, same exact result, right? All of these names have any, and they're all highlighted because I'm dynamically testing for, hey, does this inventor have any in the first name or last name? If yes, if this whole statement is true, then it will output the string highlight. Where does that highlight go? It goes inside the H1 attribute because we already said class equals something, and that something could be highlight or it could be nothing, depending on our test. So that is another way. Okay, and the reason why I mentioned that is because for your assignment, if you do it the object way, where you're adding a new key value of deleted or equals true or something like that, or rather not deleted, if selected equals true, then when you render your email, you could render the whole list, and it will automatically know and add the class name if selected is true. Okay. Cool. Next. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Let me magnify that for you, Matt. In the end, this whole statement outputs a string. It either outputs highlight or it outputs an empty string. And that string goes inside this class quote. class equals quote highlight end quote, or class equals quote empty string end quote, right? Because the end quote is right here. Cool? No? Oh, question, yeah. No? Not for you? Okay, let's take it. Probably a simple typo. Is there a red circle there? Yeah, let's click on that. What is that? Let me do a comparison on the slide. Also, this should be each one. You just have to drag it. Have each one. Yeah, so a lot of times, if you have an error, for me personally, whenever I see an error in my programming, I always assume I'm at fault, not the computer, because it's either a typo or a logical error. So if you think you're right, look more closely at the line and try to investigate where the typo is, because it has to be something small, usually. Okay, the next challenge is number 4. Upon click, highlight the H1 element. Okay, so this assumes that nothing is highlighted already. So let's let me comment out the previous code, so we're back to square one again. Yes, you can use the first part. So the first part will be the same for number 4. Const main equals document.query selector main. Okay. Const markup equals inventors.map, and we'll output a string starting with backticks. And inside the H1 tag, we'll have the first name and the last name, just like before, no change there. And we have the dot join, don't forget the dot join. And main.inner HTML equals markup. Right, so we got our headings, H1's back, H1 back. So the challenge is this: make it so that if you click on a heading on any one of these names, it'll highlight it. Go. Yeah. If you were using ESLint in VS Code, I think it would be more obvious. Yeah. All right. So anyone get it? Yeah. Okay. So here's what I did. So what I'm going to do is I have to add an event listener to all these h1 tags so that if it's clicked, then I'll do a classless add. So how do I grab all these h1s? Let's say const h1 equals document dot query selector all for all h1 tags. Now, what's that going to give me? It's going to give me a node list. How do I solve that? I do the spread operator. Because you already know the spread operator, I'm going to use the other one, array.from, which does the exact same thing. Just make you aware. And then I'm going to, so now that I have all the h1s, I'm going to map over them. So it's like a for loop. So h1.map, and I'll just randomize that one called heading. Again, that could be any variable name. And then inside that heading, I'm going to add an event listener. So now that we're dealing with a specific event h1 node list, I'm going to say, listen, if you're clicked upon, if so, I want you to add the class highlight to it. And that's it. So let's test that out. If I click on Isaac Newton, it highlights. If I click on Maria Curie, it highlights, etc. Okay. Cool. The final challenge is this. The final challenge is this. 4B. Make it so that if you click to highlight one name, all the other names are not highlighted. All right, so I only want one highlight per click, just like your real student email, right? When you click on your inbox email, that's selected, nothing else is selected. When you click on another email, that's selected, nothing else is selected. Now, I think for this one, I think I will, based on the time, yeah. Okay, I'm going to go through this one. I'm going to walk you through this one, okay? This one's a little bit more code. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function called render. I guess I don't have to, but actually, no, I do. And I'm going to call that function immediately. Okay. So it begins the same. So const, actually, let me comment out my code earlier so it doesn't interfere. So const main equals document.query selector main. All right. And then, guys back there, back table. All right. Const main equals document.query selector main. So we got that. So everything is the same. Const markup equals inventors.map. And don't forget the join. I always forget the join. And similar to before, we have an inventor. I'm going to also use an index. So I'm going to have a second parameter, which means I need the parentheses. I have an inventor, comma, I for index. And then we're going to output a big string. Okay, what's inside our string? Maybe the h1 as we did before. So let me do the h1. I'm going to use the index to my advantage. I'm going to say data dash. You can put whatever you want after the dash. And then double quote equals double quote, and then I'm going to put in my index. That in the future will help me access the inventors array once on it. Next thing I will do is the same technique as I did before with the class. So I'm going to say add the class attribute to this h1, and depending on status of, I'm going to choose a random variable or a key called selected. So if the inventor already has a key value called selected is true or selected is false, then I'll do something with that information. So here for class, I want to highlight it if this current inventor has selected true in the object. So I'm going to use the same technique as I had before. I'm going to say template literal inventor. I'm asking, does this inventor object have the selected key value? If true, I could be more explicit. I could say if true, right? Does this current inventor have selected equals true? If so, I'm going to use a ternary operator, then output the string highlight, which will then be part of the class attribute, right? Or otherwise, or else, empty string. Then the text inside the h1 tag will be just as before. Inventor.first, inventor.last, and then we're going to finally add the inner HTML. So main.inner HTML equals markup. And somewhere here I have a red circle. My parameters, which oh, thank you. So I have I here instead of index. Oh, and I didn't close it in the argument. Yes, thank you. There you go. Okay, so right now I got everything as I had before. Now, here's the trick. So right now it's actually working. It would have worked if, say, if Galileo, say in my array of objects, if the Galileo object had a key value of selected true, this would currently be highlighted right now. So let's make it so that upon click, let's turn that on. So let's go, let's say around here. I'm going to add a click event listener to all of the H1s. So just like before, const equals, and I'll use array.from this time again. I'm going to grab all the H1s. So now I have all the H1s that I just added. I'm going to map over them and add a click event listener so that upon click, I'm going to insert my selected true. So h1.map. I'm going to call each node heading. Okay, so now I'm dealing with, for example, Albert Einstein right now. Let's pretend we're dealing with the Albert Einstein object, which, by the way, I was named after. I don't know why. But then you're going to add an event listener. So if Albert Einstein is clicked upon, you want to what am I doing here? I'm looking at my. Oh yeah, okay. I'm going to purposely skip a line, an important line, just to show a point. I'm going to say. What am I doing here? Oh yeah. I'm accessing my array. Okay, so now I have I'm dealing with my whole array of scientists, and because I previously had the data dash, I'm going to now access Albert Einstein, right? So I'm going to say data set dot index if I had clicked on Albert Einstein. So now we're dealing with Albert Einstein for sure. So this whole line, inventors this dot data, that represents Albert Einstein's object, which, as a reminder, up above here, we got all these objects. So right now we're dealing with all this. Notice there is currently no key value called selected. Let's put one in there. How do you do that? You just declare it to be so. Selected equals true. And then let's render that. That's why I made the function called render, so I could call it render here. So theoretically, if I click on something, it should highlight. Let's test it out. Click, highlight. Okay, good so far. Let's see if my logic is working. Click Marie Curie. Click something else. Okay, so there's there's a couple of solutions you could try. What time is it? Okay. One way you could do is maybe you could keep track somehow, declare some kind of global variable, keep track of what you last clicked on, and maybe access that object and deselect it, so selected equals false. Or what if another solution maybe is, why don't we make every object false immediately after a click, and then target Albert Einstein and make that one true. So I'm going to say here, inventors, I'm working with a whole array, inventors.map, and for each inventor in our array, make them all false. So inventor selected equals false. Let's see if that works. So I click on Galileo, click. If I click on something else, everything should be reset to false, which means there's no more highlight. But then soon after that, Johannes Kepler will be highlighted. Click, there. Click, click, click. Cool. So in your assignment, I ask you to try to add an event listener for each email, so when you click it, it looks selected. So now you know how to do that. Question, Matt? Yeah, okay. Come check it out. It is the top of the hour, so we're perfect timing to have another 10-minute break. So go ahead and take a break. Next, we'll do the in-class exercise. Is it like that part, like just adding to class? Yeah, code, sure. My code is right here. Oh, was that? Oh, yeah. I'm gonna save it. So I just hit save. So that means if you refresh my code 10. Okay. You scroll up? Yeah, sure. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah. But does it make sense anymore? Does it make sense? What I'm doing up here? Yeah, okay. I'm glad you weren't asking me. Okay. Okay. Oh, did you want? Okay, sorry.
Well, I always am so frustrated. I know. I have a hard enough time with these classes. No idea about what. So Albert, open book tests?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for you talking about the midterm or
Like all of them.
all of it's midterm? Yeah, for sure. See, the way I view it is like as a developer, like you don't remember the syntax of everything, so you have to look it up. And you look it up and then yeah, no, Rich's class. I took Rich's class. Did I tell you that I actually took class again?
You might have.
Okay. So Rich's class, I know it's pretty strict. So that's why when I took his class, I just referred to my own code that I use.
Yeah.
The thing is, his class is way at least you have all that. Do you think I can
I don't understand these classes.
You don't understand.
And it's nothing to do with it. That matter goes right over.
What I tend to notice, because I teach the IMDW students, which is you guys, and I also for the summer teach the computer programming students. And I notice there is, in general, there's a large gap in terms of actual programming skills for the IMDW. So this program is really designed, or mostly designed, with a little bit of development. Whereas programming is all development, really, little design. So that's why I can tell, okay, the programming students, they know how to code. These guys, they're still introducing how to code.
Yeah, I think that's right. I excel. No problem.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
and this is what
And that's why in the real workforce, you have differentiated job descriptions. You have front end, back end, and now and you know, all in between. So what we're doing here is sort of like the back end of the front end.
Right. Right.
Which is harder.
You know, it's funny, because last semester, or I guess last year, and kind of the same thing as what I'm doing now, I know. And over the summer, I did and something during that course, I got it. Mostly jQuery, like I didn't understand a little bit. Probably more jQuery than anything. The second you said, like I got out of class, my heart was saying, I finally understood it.
Well, the good thing about jQuery is that when jQuery was invented, it did what JavaScript was meant to do, but never could get it done. So jQuery actually accelerated
the JavaScript language itself.
Right.
And jQuery made it attractive for non-developers to start coding. But then after jQuery, after a while, the language of JavaScript then upgraded itself because of jQuery. And so now we don't need jQuery anymore. That's the trend. Yeah, that's the trend.
But then jQuery led to the development of frameworks.
Yeah.
And so jQuery also like Angular.
Yeah. Actually, if you Google Vue, the new jQuery, it doesn't even talk about Vue itself. It's like the new jQuery.
So I guess I think something that for a lot of developers, right? Like there's that disconnect. So like when would you ever this sounds something what I'm trying to like when would you ever find yourself in a situation where you thought in a rate comes out and back
So you've done PHP where you've dealt with MySQL, right? And you understand that.
No.
Oh. But you understand getting the data from MySQL in order to output to page, right? You understand that cost. So same thing here, except instead of MySQL, we're using JSON. Right? We're fetching from Makaru. Makaru is like our MySQL database now. And our queries are just JSON fetches. So web development has changed such that we don't need the server. We don't need to manage the server of the database anymore. We can just do API calls with fetch, and that's like our queries almost.
Would it not be more so?
The trend is you may have heard the term serverless. Now serverless, and so the trend is you don't want to deal with the pain point of managing the server. Instead, you can make an easier job of calling out a third-party JSON server to do the work for you. Okay, so you have the term serverless now, where you can actually do API fetch calls so that other computers do the work. They do the work. They return JSON data, and now you have something to look at.
Should we be worried about that when you see
It's always does that.
That's it?
Always does that.
Okay, I never
Okay. Final in-class exercise of the day. So this is what you have to hand in. I will walk you through it. I've just made this morning, so it's not really proofread or anything, but I think it works. But maybe you can find some bugs in it as you go along. So what I want you to do, quiet. What I want you to do is open up this slide here, in-class exercise 4, and then right-click this code pen, and I want you to fork this to your own account, and then that's what you will hand in for the in-class exercise, which is not due tonight. It's due on Friday night. Okay, so open this up and fork it. So click on the fork button so you yourself have your own version of this, and it's going to be held in your account for CodePens. So that's what you hand in to me. All right. So what I've done here is we're going to deal with a new API. Let me introduce you to this API here. So we've been dealing with some people. Let's just try something called this. If you Google Cards API, you'll come across this website called Deck of Cards. It's another API. So instead of people, you're getting cards. Question, Jaden. Page not found. That doesn't make sense. Is anyone else getting page not found? No? Oh, you got it now? Okay, you got it. Okay, so yeah, perfect. Okay, so let me introduce you to this API here. So this API, instead of returning Makaru type people, it will return cards. So the first thing you need to do to start this off is you need to call this API. You need to fetch that API, and what it will return is an object with an ID number. And so this ID number is very important because this is the ID number you have to include on all your fetch calls from here on in. Okay, so the first is sort of like just an initial set it up. And then each call after that will look like this. To draw a card, it looks like this. And then you have to insert your ID in here, and that's it. And you could say count equals 2 or count equals 1 or whatever, how many cards you want to draw. So let's see this in action. I'm curious. So let me just go here. Okay. I'm going to type it in the web address here. Here it is. Enter. I get a JSON object back. Here's my ID number right here. So I'm going to copy this ID number because I know I'll need that later. So let me go back to the page here. And the next call will look like this, but I'm going to insert my ID number. So let me paste it there. Let me copy this, control that, and paste it here, and then get my key, my ID, and then replace it where it should be. And then enter. There. So here is 2 cards that were dealt to me by this website. I have a king of diamonds and a 3 of spades. And that's how it works. Cool. And notice it has an image field. So this is a PNG file with the appropriate image. If I click on it, it looks like that. Great. So let's make something with that. So I already did the infrastructure for you. I already did some of the CSS and some of the JavaScript. And it's your job. Again, I'll give you a few minutes to try this on your own, and we'll take it up. It's your job to try to fill in the blanks. Okay, so what it's going to look like is if you click on deal card, the card will then show here in the playing area. If you click on another deal card, another card shows, and etc. Furthermore, if you click on each card, it'll highlight in yellow. Furthermore, if you click on show selected cards button, it'll only show the cards that you selected in yellow. If you click on show discarded cards, it'll only show the cards that were not highlighted in yellow. That's it. The reason I structured it this way this morning is I kind of figured, okay, you got your trash here, your inbox could be one of these two, depending how you code it. So let's try it. I want to give you a chance to try this out. Again, I've created the JavaScript body infrastructure for you. So the first thing I want you to do is focus on line 13. It has a fetch const init equals fetch, so it's fetching. And remember, it's going to give you a object with an ID number. So notice how I have a let deck ID right now. That's up at the top. Your job right now for the next minute is to assign the deck ID number that you receive back from the API and assign it to this variable called deck ID. Go. And that will come in between lines 16, 17, 18. It's really just one line. Yeah, so here's your clue. So again, the fetch gets the object that looks like, let's go back to this one again. I just fetched this, and the immediate response you get back is this. I want you to place this value, whatever you get, into the variable, our variable called deck ID up here. So that means somewhere in this space here, just write one line of code that makes that happen. Chrome, but it's magnified, zoomed. Oh, I know why, because I have an extension on Chrome. So the reason why it looks kind of like whatever you want to call that is because, because in my extensions, settings, where is it? Which one did I install to make it look like that? This one. I installed JSON Viewer. That makes any JSON data you get look like this instead of like collapsed. Yeah. All right, did anyone get it? One line, yeah, what'd you get? Kumal? No, you didn't get, okay. Anyone? Umar, anyone?
I just set the variable.
Yep. So your line is basically on the left-hand side is our variable, which, oh, sorry, it's called deck ID. So I say deck underscore ID equals, now we already have the data, which is this object, this kind of object. And so how do you access the value of deck ID? You say that dot ID. That will, so now we can use that, right? Cool, that is correct. Next. Oh, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Tatiana, or Vivian, yeah. So the next one that I want you to focus on is on line, let's see here, I think line 26. So you're adding a click event for the deal button so that it fetches one card and it pushes it to our array called hand. So again, notice near the top I have an array, an empty array called hand. By the way, when I was setting this up this morning, I originally had just let hand semicolon, but that didn't work because later on when I said hand.push, there's no such thing as push on just like a variable. That's why I said hand equals empty array, because now JavaScript knows, okay, that's an array. That means it has push now. So line 26, I want you to put, just make it so that it fetches one card, which it's already kind of doing already in this fetch statement, and pushing that new card to our array called hand. And make it display after that. Anyone get it? Brando, what do you think? No? Okay. So keep in mind, when we fetched a new card, our new card will look like something like this. Okay, this is an example of two cards being given to us. Actually, this whole object. So we get something that looks like this. And what we want to do is we want to push that new object into our array. So again, our array here is called hand, which is currently empty. How do you add something to an array? You could say .push, for example. So in here, line 26, I can say hand, which is our empty array currently, .push, and it's going to add in whatever we just received, which is the data, right? Then we want to render that. So I'm going to actually put in a parameter here called hand, and you'll see why in a second. Okay, so let's see if this works. So if I click on deal card, let's see if it actually shows something. Deal card. It's not working. Okay. What was that? Oh, yeah, maybe. Okay, so I'm getting some data here. That's good. Oh, right. You know why it's not showing up? Because I I deleted some stuff. Okay, we still have to code. Sorry, we can't test it now. We still have to code. Anyways, let's go to line number 39. So here is our render function. And that's why it's not showing, because our render function is not coded yet fully. And here are the render function. We want to display whatever array we received as a parameter, as an argument. Okay, so right now we hooked into the main, And we're now going to map over our received array. That's why I say view.map here. Okay, so whatever, at the end of the day, it's going to be one large string called, and it's going to be stored in display hand, and it's going to be assigned to the inner HTML of main, and then we can see it. Okay, so the question is, what goes in here in the dot map? Let me code that for you. So it's one long string, so it starts with backticks, right? Okay. Inside the map, oh, sorry, it doesn't start with backticks. It does not start with backticks, sorry. Delete. Okay, it starts with two parameters, card and index. And because it's two parameters, I need my additional parentheses on that. Then we have arrow function, and then we have our backticks. And we close it off, and I always forget my join, so I'll just do the join now. Okay. And so now inside the backticks, I'll just make those multiple lines. Close that up for a second. So here inside my backticks, I'm going to close. Okay. Oh, thank you. I have the join in the bottom. Yeah, I did. Okay. So I guess the backtick should go here. Right? I think. Yes? Yes. Thank you. So what goes in here? Oh, I don't want you to. It's not so bad. It's not so bad. Okay, so we're gonna have a div here. So we'll just type in div, end it off quickly, so you don't forget. This. Inside that div tag, I'm going to put in my data dash index. So track of what we're currently looking at. Oops. I can use later to my advantage to access the array. Similarly, I'm going to use the same technique that I did before when I was highlighting, Albert Einstein and it highlighted. I'm going to use the same exact technique. Class equals something. And then inside that, I'm going to have card, which is actually one of the class names for our current CSS framework that I imported. And then we're going to have an additional class. So at the end of the day, this is going to look like this. Class equals card highlight, or class equals card. So using the same technique as before, I'm going to put a template literal, and we're going to check if this current card is selected. If so, output the string highlight. If not, empty string. Yeah, this is the ternary operator. So it looks. Do you know the structure if else? Yeah, this is exactly like if else. So what you're saying is, here's your test function. This really belongs to the if. If card.selected equals true, then do this, else do this. That's all it is. By the way, a hint, one of your questions on the midterm exam will involve this ternary operator. Okay. And it's the question that only one person got last year. Okay. Okay. It was earnest. Okay. So the next one, inside that, we're going to have another div. So enter that, close it off quick so you don't forget. Put some spacing there just to be nice. So inside this second div, based on the CSS framework I had, I think we should have another class there called card content. So it actually looks like a card. And then the final two elements is inside that div, we'll have a paragraph with a class of title. Turn that off quickly. And inside that, we'll have our image of the card. So here, what do you think goes in the source attribute for this our current card? Like how do we display that? And Jaden. Yep. We want to access. So it looks like this. Okay. Now in this case, there's two cards being given to us, but just imagine it's only one card given to us. So what we need to do is we have to say, okay, what name did we give it? We gave the name card. So that means we need to access card dot cards 0 dot image, right? Does that make sense? So let's do that. So over here, it'll be card dot cards 0 dot image. And I think that should work. Let me see if that, oh wait, is there, yeah, let's see if that works. It should work. Deal card, woohoo. Right, deal card again, woohoo. All right, you can make a game. All right. Yeah, you can make anything you want, man. Okay, the next challenge is on line 51. It says, bind click events to all the cards so that upon click, it's highlighted. We just did this before with the inventors with the H1 tags, same thing here. Okay, I've given you a class called highlight somewhere here, I think. There it is, highlight, yellow background. So let's do it. Same thing before, nothing new. So what I'm going to do, strategies, I'm going to grab all of these using query selector all. I'm going to use a map to go over each one of them. And so I can add a click listener to each one of them. And the logic goes from there. So let's do that. So const, and I don't know what, I can't use cards, can I? Because I think I already used that. Did I? Did I use cards already? No, I'll just, you know what, I'll just call it card, I don't know, card flop, whatever. I'm terrible with variable names. Okay, card flop equals document.query selector all to grab all of our cards. Now I just happen to know that each card has a class called .card, so I'll just target that. Now this return, again, because we're using query selector all, what does that return? It returns a node list. Solution to that is spread operator, so that we can map, because map only works on array. So we say card flop dot map. Okay, so now for each card that we're working with, we can do something now. We want to first add a click event listener. So we do that by saying card add event listener. Click. So what do you want the card to do when you click on it? I want it to highlight. How do you do that? Let's add a new key value in that object called selected equals true. Because remember, back here in my HTML, I already am looking for selected equals true. And it's going to automatically add the highlight class if it is. So in here, I'll say, I'm going to access my array, which is currently view. Again, view was passed in to my render function. And inside here, I'm going to use my data dash, so data set index. So now I'm dealing with the first card, or maybe I'm dealing with the second card. And then now that I'm dealing with that object, I can randomly put a new key value pair. So this object will now have a new key value pair called selected, and the value for that will be true. And now all you have to do is render that view. Let's see if that works. Deal card Deal card. Let me select number 4, the 4 clubs. Click. Let me select the jack. Nice. Or yeah. I always confuse jack and joker. Okay. Cool. All right. Just like the assignment almost. The last thing we have to code, what time is it? Good. The last thing you have to code is these 2 buttons, show selected cards, show discarded cards. So the strategy, well, the last thing is I'm going to make these buttons functional. So show selected cards and show discarded cards. So what I want to do right now is the functionality of show selected cards is whatever cards are already highlighted in yellow, clicking show selected cards will only display those cards, and vice versa for show discarded cards. Cool. So this is how I did it. So line 73. I've already set it up for you for the click event. So this is where you can use your newfound method called filter. So I'll give you a couple minutes to try to fill in line 73. What goes inside that render method using filter? Say it again, sorry. 72? Yeah, that's fine. So fill in lines 73 there using filter. I'm gonna start you off. It's gonna be hand, right? Because our hand is declared up top as a global variable and has all of our cards. So you're gonna say hand dot filter. So what goes inside that? Once you figure that out, it shouldn't be too hard to figure out line 79 because it's just the opposite of that. Anyone get it? All right, so I'll fill it in. Card. Card. Here, that's it. We're testing, does this current card object have a key value pair called selected equals true, right? Because this is a truthy value, right? And then similarly for line 79, it's the opposite of that. Now I came across a weird thing, and I'm not sure what's happening. So I explicitly said equals false, or if selected equals undefined. In my mind, I thought undefined evaluates to a falsy value, so I thought all I needed was this kind of thing, but it didn't work. So not sure why. And that's it. I think that's it. That's all. Let's try it out. Click on deal card. Let me just expand this. Deal card, deal card, deal card, deal card. Oh, where's that one? It's underneath, I think. Yeah, okay. So if I'm going to click on the second one and maybe the fourth one, and then click on show selected card, I should see only the 2 spades and 5 of diamonds. Let's try it out. Click. If I click on this button, show discarded cards, it should show me the other ones. Click, click, click. Ah, almost. What am I dealing with? Find is false, undefined, initialize. I'm not sure why that's not working. It should work. Oh, I think I'm missing one bracket here. Here? Oh, wait. Oh, shoot. I forgot hand dot filter right here. Yeah. Hand dot filter right there. Hand dot filter. Right, it's the same thing as here. Hand dot filter, blah, blah, blah. This one, hand dot filter, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's try that out. All right, deal card, deal card, deal card. Click on the ace of diamonds. Select it. Okay, I'll click on show selected cards. It should show me ace of diamonds. I'll say show discarded cards. Those 2. If I click on deal card again, it'll show me everything because I'm still dealing with the original array because that's how I coded it. but that's just on purpose, so you're aware of what you're dealing with for the assignment. Question, Joel? Yeah. Okay, so if I say this and nothing else, perfect. That's what I was thinking. But when I was doing it this morning, you didn't. Discarded cards. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. That's what I was hoping for. I was hoping for a simple solution like that, and I did that originally. So I thought this morning, but it didn't work for me for some reason. Okay, that's it. That's it. You hand that in. You get your 2%. You hand in your code pen. That's it. And here's your lab. What was that? Yeah, the lab is the assignment. So you'll notice on weekly learning, week 4, your lab is this. Complete 1A, 1B, 1C, and 2A of assignment 1, plus use local storage. So here's a reminder. Here's your assignment, which is now in Word document format. Whew. So here are your requirements for the assignment. So for your lab, you are completing all of this. 1A, 1B, 1C, plus 2A, plus local storage. Okay? It's easy because, number one, you've done it a million times. You're just displaying the emails. That's it. You're just displaying the emails. 2A is what we learned today, where you're going to add an event listener click so that if you click on an email, it looks selected. Question, what is the class that I need to make it look selected? Let's go to the pure CSS layout site. Let's go back to the layouts. Let's look at the email for a second. Here. So look, this first email looks selected. The other ones do not. Why? Because if you inspect this first one, it should have a unique class name called, there, email item selected. So you add that email item selected, it will make it look selected. Done. So that's your highlight, right? And furthermore, you have to use local storage. So basically, I'm not looking for anything fancy. Basically, as soon as your program loads, use local storage to store your emails so that if I refresh, I'll get those exact same. Actually, you know what? No. That's not a requirement for this lab. Just store it in local storage. That's it. I'm going to check the application tab to see if it's there. If it's there, you're good. I'm not even going to refresh it. I'm just going to make sure you know how to use it to set. That's it. Simple. Okay? All right. Cool. Any questions, comments? Okay, out of my curiosity, show of hands, who's like totally confused still? Half away? Yeah. Okay. All right. Again, that's why I record these videos. Hopefully, hopefully you can look at it and pause it and stuff. Or ask me in my office in the library, come visit me. But that is the end of class. And surprisingly, I'm actually ending class a few minutes before class actually ends, which is a first for me. So that's great, because usually it's always overtime. Okay, that's it. That's the end of class. Thank you. The end.